State of Texas versus Daniel Villegas. The record to reflect the jurors are still outside of the courtroom. The court has appointed a lawyer to Mr. Fernando Lujan, a potential witness in this case. Sir, could you please state your name for the record?
Yes, sir. My name is Justin V. Underwood. I'm a licensed attorney here in the state of Texas. My state bar number is 2403-3285.
Mr. Lujan, have you had an adequate opportunity to discuss your potential testimony in this case with Mr. Underwood?
Yes, I have, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Butterworth, you may proceed with any questioning to determine what may or may not happen.
Thank you. I can even proffer my questions if that's okay for the court. What I would like to do is ask this witness.
Just give us all the questions you want to ask, and then we'll see what his response is going to be.
I would call Mr. Lujan and I would ask him if he knows the defendant and if the defendant hung out with Marcus Gonzalez, if they were in fact members of BNE, if on April 9th of 1993, if he was with the defendant at any point that night. I suspect the answer will be he will tell us yes, that at some point earlier in the evening that he was with the defendant at Boomerangs.
Let's just go with the questions you're intending to ask.
Where, if earlier in the evening he was with the defendant at Boomerangs, who was with him? I'll ask him what time he was then dropped off or got home. And then I will ask him if he has seen, back in April of 1993, if he had seen the defendant with a .22 caliber handgun. I will ask if he gave that information to the El Paso Police Department, that it was given to Detective Earl Arbogast. Those would be my questions that I would sponsor to Mr. Lujan, or I would ask Mr. Lujan.
Mr. Lujan, to the questions that would be asked by the district attorney, and we haven't even gotten to the questions that would be asked by the defense lawyers. Are you going to answer these questions? And we need to know, outside the presence of the jury, what you intend to do.
My client wishes to invoke his Fifth Amendment right.
I think he needs to say it himself. So,
at this time, Your Honor, I would like to exercise my Fifth Amendment right.
For what crime? What am I accusing him of in these questions? This is where I'm confused, Judge. If we allow all witnesses to do this that don't want to cooperate in this case, which of course hardly any of these witnesses want to come in and cooperate and get involved in this case, for what crime?
maybe giving a false statement to law enforcement. I don't know.
Both parties.
Mr. Lujan, you are excused from any subpoena that you are currently under.
You have to excuse, Your Honor.
Please note my objection for the record, Judge.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Underwood.
Yes, Judge.
Are you ready for your next witness, or think about it, because I'll bring the jury in before you call your next witness.
Yeah, can we, so we don't have open down, we find out who the next witness is at least?
That's what I'm trying to find out.
We'll say Reveles.
We could probably, while we're waiting for the jury, Judge, if we could bring them in to be instructed on the part of the trial.
That's it. I'm going to swear him in now and do that, but then I'm going to swear him in again in front of the jury.
Jim, can you just have him here?
Go get it. Come on up, sir, real quick. We swear you in, but I'm going to do it twice, but I'll explain why. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in these proceedings shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you? Your name, sir, for the record? Sir, being sworn in as a witness in this case, I need to advise you, you are not to discuss this case with anyone except the attorneys representing the state or the attorneys representing the accused. You're not to remain within the hearing of anybody discussing their testimony. You're not to discuss your testimony with any other witness. If you find out this is happening, you need to inform me immediately. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
There's also a lot of media in here that's using social media to let their customers know what's going on inside the courtroom. You're not allowed to go on those sites to monitor what's going on with other witnesses. Do you understand this? Finally, I do need to inform you, this jury is not to know about any previous trials that may have been had in this case or any previous hearings that have been had in this case. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
You're not to use the word trial, hearing, or any sort of language like that. When the lawyers talk to you about any possible testimony you have given in those trials or any statements you have given, they're going to talk to you about, do you remember when you had an opportunity in 1994? That's when the first trial was had. To talk about this. That's their way of pointing you to any statements you may have made in the past. They're going to use 1994, 1995, and maybe 2011, or any witness statements you may have given to the police. But they're never going to talk about a hearing or a trial, and I need you not to do the same. Do you understand my instructions?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to bring the jury back in, and in front of the jury, I need to swear you in again. So just go ahead and stand right there, or sit right there, and then my bailiff will go get the jury. Sure.
There's no jury here. Does the witness need to step out?
Yes.
Go ahead and step out, sir. Record should once again reflect that we're outside the presence of the jury or any potential witnesses that may be called in this case. Mr. Spencer.
Yes, John, thank you. Apparently, Officer Reveles was called out as a result on April the 10th, 1993 at 3 o'clock in the morning, actually to 5700 Ren, to Daniel Villegas' house as a result of shots fired, that their home was a victim of being shots fired. So I don't understand the relevance for this officer's testimony, other than there's a footnote in here that when he went out there, he's called out in reference to some shots that they were fired at the resident's home, which would make Daniel's home a victim, and as a result of that, because he may be, or he is a VNE gang member. So they want to get it out for the purposes of an extraneous offense or bad conduct, a VNE gang that has nothing to do with the offense for which he's on trial for. I don't think it's relevant. It's highly prejudicial. There's more prejudicial than probative.
May I respond?
Let's assume for a minute the testimony includes eliciting testimony that he is a gang member. Let's assume for a minute that that is correct.
Okay. I mean,
if you want to tell us, that's fine, but I'm not going to tell you to tell me what you're calling him for. But if you want to, instead of me doing it this
yeah,
way.
Judge, I'm not planning on eliciting hearsay. I know the rules of evidence, and we're calling him for the purpose of establishing that the 2.5 hours after the electric stick shooting, the defendant, Marcos Gonzalez, and Rodney Williams are all hanging out outside of the defendant's house, and another shooting happens. And instead of being the victims and going inside, they're hanging out in the street. And I think it's important to place the three of them together literally hours after the shooting, because it's the state's position that those were the two individuals with him at the time of the shooting. We have David Ronhell's statement that Marcos
So it's
Gonzalez...
only to show that within hours later, those three people were together at his house.
Correct.
And the police know this because there was a call in that area.
Correct. A shooting.
A shooting.
Right.
Anything else, Mr. Spencer?
No, that's all right.
Okay. Go get them and then we'll get them.
All rise.
be seated. We're back on the record in call. It's number 94-0D09328, the state of Texas versus Daniel Villegas. We are back from our unofficial afternoon break, but we're going to have another one anyway. Mr. Montoya, who's your next witness?
Jose Reveles.
Raise your right hand for me, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in these proceedings shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated. For the record, sir, I do need your name. I need you to spell your last name for us.
Jose Reveles. My last name is R-E-V as in Victor, E-L-E-S.
Mr. Montoya, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Could you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury, tell them your name and where you work?
My name is Jose Reveles. I currently work at the University of Texas System Police out of Houston.
And officer, is it officer, or what are you now? What's your rank now?
I'm a sergeant there as well.
Okay. And Sergeant Reveles, back in April of 1993, how were you employed?
I was a police officer with the city of El Paso
When did you become an El Paso police officer?
in 1982.
1982.
1982.
And how long were you a police officer here in El Paso?
I served here for 28 years.
28 years.
Yes, sir.
Back in April of 1993, what was your assignment within the El Paso Police Department?
I was a police officer assigned out of the Northeast Regional Command Center.
Were you a patrol officer?
Yes, I was.
And I'd like to direct your attention specifically to the early morning hours of Saturday, April 10th, 1993. Were you working at that time?
Yes, I was.
And were there any, what do you remember about the early morning hours of that Saturday?
I know there was a shooting that resulted in two deaths at Electric and Trans Mountain in that area that we were working that active scene.
Okay. Did you go to that scene?
I did, just to see if they needed any help.
And how long were you there?
Maybe 5 or 10 minutes.
Were you ever called out to another shooting, a second shooting later that morning?
Yes, I was.
Okay, and about what time was that?
About 3 o'clock in the morning, I responded to a shots fired call in the area of 5700 Joyetta.
Okay. And at 5700 Ren?
Joyetta.
Joe Herrera. And Joe Herrera, does that cross with any streets?
It runs parallel with Ren, and it's split by one block of 9300 block of Albany.
Okay. And when you got there, sir, what did you find?
When I got there, I didn't hear any shots fired. As I checked the area, it took me down Albany onto Wren Street. And when I got to that area, I encountered 3 individuals.
Okay. And where were these individuals standing?
They were standing out in the street.
Okay. And were you able to identify these individuals?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And who were they?
One was Daniel Villegas. The second one was Marcos Gonzalez. And the last one was Rodney Williams.
Okay. And what did you do? Did you ask them anything? What was your interaction?
I asked them about the shots fired in that area. If they heard anything, they didn't say that they heard or anything.
How did they respond to you?
They were real vague on their answers and what they were doing out on the streets. And because 2 of them were under the age of 17, they were subject to curfew.
And what did you tell them? What did you do?
I just kept trying to find out additional information, and when I realized I wasn't getting any information, I asked Daniel, who lived right there at 5700 Rand, to go inside, and Marco says he was staying with Daniel, so I asked him as well to just go inside, get off the streets.
Okay.
And then I took Rodney home.
Rodney Williams.
Rodney Williams.
Okay. Do you recall where Mr. Williams lived, perchance?
Yes, he lived at the apartment complex located at 5249 Rand. Back then it was the Village Green Apartments.
How far away is that from 5700 Ren where the defendant lived?
About a mile.
Okay. And I know it's been some time since you've been here in El Paso, but could you approximate the distance from Electric and Trans Mountain to 5700 Ren?
Yes, that's about 3 miles.
No further questions, Judge.
Yes, Judge.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Officer Reveles.
How you doing?
I'm good, sir. Thank you. Yourself?
Good.
Good. My name is Joe Spencer. I'm one of the lawyers that represents Danny Villegas. I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions, all right?
Yes, sir.
If you don't understand what I'm asking, let me know. I'm going to reword it or rephrase it. Fair enough?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. As I understand your testimony, there was a report that the house at 5700 Ren had been shot at. Is that correct?
No.
No? There was shots.
Somebody from the 5700 block of Joe Herrera remembers hearing several shots fired.
Oh, I see. Okay. And you also, based on whatever investigation you did, determined that there was actually, after the shots fired, a yellow T-bird was observed leaving the area. Is that correct?
It's hearsay.
Answer the question if you don't.
That information on a yellow T-bird came in through the caller who wanted to remain anonymous.
I would renew my objection to hearsay, Judge.
It helps the jury understand why he was there.
So,
Right. So the caller who reported the shot fires observed a yellow T-bird leaving the scene of the area after the shots, correct?
Right.
I just want to put it in perspective, that's all. Okay. And Daniel was out there with a few of his friends after curfew, and you told him, get in the house.
2 of them to get in the house. The third one I took home.
And third one you took home. And actually, that was very gracious of you, because you could have, as an officer, cited them for being juveniles, correct?
I could have.
Right. But you just told them, get in the house, and then you were gracious enough to take Rodney home, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you had already been at the shooting on Electric Street for 5 or 10 minutes, correct?
Yes.
Right. Wait. Do you remember testifying previously, sir?
Yes.
Do you remember testifying that after talking to the individuals, Daniel, Marcos, and Rodney, that they gave you a description of the car that supposedly also drove by after the shots?
Not Daniel or Marcos. That was Rodney on the drive home.
On the drive home, okay, so he
Yeah.
did tell you that,
Yes.
okay. And you didn't see at that home, at the 5700 Ren home where Daniel lives, you didn't see any Monte Carlo there, did you, sir?
I did not.
Pass the witness.
Anything else, Mr. Morgan?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Sergeant, did Rodney Williams, was he a member of V&E?
He claimed he was not, but he associated with them.
Okay. What about Marcos Gonzalez and Daniel Villegas?
Yes, they were.
Thank you, sir.
The Flores brothers, you familiar with them in that area?
In the area of...
Northeast El Paso?
Yes, northeast, yes. Ren, no.
No, I understand that. Part of the
Yes.
Midnight Locals?
Yes, sir.
All right, pass the witness.
May this witness be finding excused to go back to Houston? Or do you want, you tell me?
He can be excused for our chair now.
Okay.
You You want to go back to the humidity, you go right ahead. If you want to get some good Mexican food before you go back there, you need to go to L&J's. You're free from our subpoena.
Thank you, sir.
Have safe travels. Call your next witness.
Angelica Hernandez. Can I approach?
Yeah. For stuff.
Well, no,
Them too.
well, I think,
She was not sworn in yesterday.
no, Judge.
Raise your right hand for me, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in these proceedings shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please be seated. For the record, ma'am, I do need your name. I need you to spell your last name for us.
Angelica Hernandez, Hernandez.
Mr. Montoya, you may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing today?
Good, thank you.
Could you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury? Tell them your name and where you work.
Okay, my name is Angelica Hernandez, and I was working at the Holiday Inn. I'm not working right now.
Okay. And Ms. Hernandez, how long have you lived in El Paso?
Pretty much my whole life, since I was 6 years old.
Back in 1993, were you living here in El Paso?
Yes, I was in high school,
Where were you going to high school?
in Burgess High School.
Burgess. Where about did you live here in El Paso back in 93?
I lived in Central by Roger Bacon Church on Frankfurt Street.
Okay. And how old would you have been in 93?
1993, I believe I was 15, 14 or 15.
Okay. When's your birthday?
78, May 18.
May 18.
In 93, I believe I was a freshman
Okay.
in high school.
And did you ever have an occasion to go to North Park Mall?
I would go to North Park all the time to the movies
To
with
the
my
movie-
friend.
Do you remember what the movie theater was called?
I think it was Boomerang's Theater, or it was the one inside the mall.
Okay.
Mhm.
And mall's not there anymore, is it?
No. Mhm.
And
Do me a favor, ma'am. Most people who don't come to court a lot say,
Oh.
and mhm.
Yes.
Like court reporter can't take that down.
Okay.
And I'll probably, it's so natural to you, it's,
Yeah.
it's yes or no.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
And Ms. Hernandez, how often would you go to the movies, or would you go to North Park Mall?
I would go to the movies about every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks? How would you get there in high school?
We would take the bus or we would get rides.
Would you go by yourself?
No, I would always go with a friend.
Same friend, different friend?
Mainly the same friend. I had one best friend. I had several best friends, but mainly one.
All right, and who was
Mhm.
that?
Jessica Frescas.
Same age as you? Was she also going to Burgess?
Yes, we're the same age, but she went to Austin High School. We went to middle school together.
I'd like to direct your attention specifically to April of 1993, sometime in April of 1993. Did anything unusual happen while you were there at the mall, at North Park?
Yes, we had run into some guys.
Okay. How many guys?
I remember 3 guys.
3 guys. And they came up to you, or you went up to them?
They came up to us. They were calling us.
Okay. Calling you over, or what?
Yeah, just like, come here, girls, or whistling and stuff.
Okay. And how old did these 3 guys look?
Around the same age.
Okay. About same age as you guys?
Yes.
Okay. And when they came over to you, what happened?
Oh, they started talking to us, asking our names, what were we doing there. We told them we were going to the movies.
Okay.
And then,
And did any one of them say something that surprised you or
yes,
shocked you?
Yes, they started talking about a drive-by shooting.
Okay. Did you know which drive-by shooting they were talking about?
I hadn't heard of it, no.
You hadn't heard of it yet?
No.
Okay. But they started talking about a drive-by?
Yes.
Okay. Did they tell you how many people were involved in the drive-by?
I don't remember.
Okay. If I showed you the email that you sent to the DA's office back in 2012, would that refresh your memory?
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes, you may.
Sorry, this isn't your stuff.
Okay, I wrote in that email, he told us they were involved in a shooting and shot 2 guys.
2 guys.
Objection, Judge. Hearsay.
Okay. And which one of the guys told you that they had shot 2 guys?
It was mainly one guy talking, and yeah.
How would you describe him?
I just remember that he was light-skinned.
Out of the 3 of them?
Yes.
Okay. And did they tell you if they were part of any gang?
Yes, they did. They said they were from the V&E gang.
V&E.
Yes.
Did you know who V&E was?
Yes, I did.
Okay. What did that stand for, if you know?
Barrio Northeast, I think.
Okay. And when this group, who was doing the talking in the group?
Mainly one guy that I remember was had lighter skin.
Okay. And when he told you, had you seen that person before?
No.
Okay. Had you seen that person since then?
Yes.
Okay. Where did you see that person?
On the news.
On the news? Okay. When they told you this, how did it make you feel?
I got scared and nervous.
Okay. Had anyone ever told you something like that before?
In high school, at the time, there was a lot of drive-by shootings, and people would talk about it, but nobody ever said, I did one.
I did it. No one would.
Well, I mean, they would talk about it, but not directly admit to it.
Okay. And this person, they directly admitted to it.
Yes, in a way.
Okay. What did you do after you were told this? What did you do at the movies? Did you keep talking to them, or what happened?
No, when we were like, well, we gotta go, and we went into the movies, and they kept walking.
Okay. Ms. Hernandez, did you go back? Did you report this to the police in 1993?
I didn't. I did tell my mom, and my friend told her aunt about it,
Okay.
but then it came out in the news that they had arrested somebody,
Okay.
so we never went to the police.
All right. And the person that they arrested, that was the same person that told you?
Yes.
Okay. The same light-skinned person?
Yes.
I have no further questions. I pass the witness.
Mr. Walton,
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
My name is Felix Valenzuela. I'm one of the attorneys that represents Mr. Villegas. I'm going to ask you a few questions. And
Okay.
I'm going to try to be as clear as possible. If there's something you don't understand, I just ask that you ask me to repeat it. Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay. So, ma'am, You first sent an email to the district attorneys in 2012, is that right?
Yes,
Okay. And that email is where you first described what you said that you wanted to tell them something you know about the Daniel Villegas case, is that right?
yes,
Okay. You had no other interaction with the district attorney for 20 years before that, is that right?
yes,
And actually, what you just talked about that happened at North Park Mall was 20 years before you sent the email, is that right?
yes,
Okay. And based upon your testimony here today, and you were saying that you and your friend, was it one friend or multiple friends?
One
That-
friend.
Okay. It was Jessica, sorry, the last name?
Frescas,
It was Jessica Frescas. You two were there that night at North Park Mall, is that right?
yes.
Okay.
It was during the day,
Oh, it was during the day?
yes.
Okay. About what time was it, ma'am?
I would say about 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock in the afternoon? What day of the week was it?
I believe it was a Saturday.
Saturday in the middle of the day, okay. And what movie did you go see, ma'am?
I don't remember.
Okay. What kind of concessions did you buy that day?
I don't remember. We usually just had money for the movies.
Okay. What were you wearing that day?
I don't remember. Probably jeans.
What was Jessica wearing that day?
Jeans or shorts, I don't know.
You
It
don't
was
remember?
warm weather. If it was in April.
So you don't really remember what she was wearing?
No.
Okay. What was the three guys that you saw, what were they wearing?
I don't remember. I want to say white t-shirts, but I don't really remember.
Okay. The person you said that was light-skinned, was he pretty heavyset?
No.
Okay. Was he pretty skinny?
Yes.
Did he have short hair, long hair?
Short hair.
Okay. Was he wearing glasses or no glasses?
I don't remember.
Okay. Were they holding any concessions?
No, we were outside the movies. It was an outdoor mall, and we were outside the movies. We hadn't gone in yet.
Okay, so you hadn't entered the theater itself. You were talking in the corridor?
Yes.
Okay. Was it a busy afternoon?
No. No, there was nobody in the corridor.
So it was just you and your friend and those three individuals, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And so since that time until you reported it, it's about 2 decades that passed, right?
Yes.
And now it's been about, what, 25, 26 years, is that right?
Yes.
And you agree that memory fades over time, is that right?
Yes and no.
Okay. Since that time, that experience you had at North Park Mall, had you ever seen any of those three individuals afterward?
No.
Okay. And you were 15 years old at that time in North Park Mall, is that right?
Yes.
Your interaction with those three people lasted, what, 30 seconds, maybe a minute?
I would say about 5 minutes.
About 5 minutes, okay. So you said that they asked for your phone number, is that right?
Yes.
What else did they ask you for during that whole 5-minute interaction?
I believe if we had boyfriends or something like that.
Okay, so they asked if you had boyfriends, they asked for your phone number. What else did they talk to you about in those 5 minutes?
Just the drive-by shooting.
Okay, so they asked you for your phone number, they asked if you had boyfriends, and then they jumped into telling you about the shooting,
Yes.
and that's when you ran away?
We walked away.
You walked away, okay? And so it was about 5 minutes that whole conversation lasted?
Yes.
Okay. And you're saying 20 years after that event, you were able to identify Daniel on the TV, is that right?
He looked familiar.
He looked familiar. Okay. You were not able to identify anybody else from that, the media interview, is that right?
No.
Okay. Just Daniel. And you were not able to identify any of the two other people that were with Daniel at that time, is what you're
No.
saying, is that right? Okay. And in what you saw, Daniel, the media interview itself was based on specific charges, is that right? It wasn't just a general interview about who he was or what he's doing, is that right?
I don't understand.
Okay. The interview or the TV show, whatever it is you saw, it wasn't just a background history of some random guy, is that right?
understand. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so ever since that time, you haven't seen Daniel, you haven't seen the two people that are with him ever again, is that correct?
No. Except on TV.
And when you were out there in the corridor, before you went to theater, this is the very first time you had met or seen or even knew these three people, is that right?
Yes.
You didn't know them beforehand, is that right?
No.
And you didn't maintain communication with them afterward, is that
No.
right? Okay. And in your conversation, the 5-minute conversation, the light-skinned guy told you that he had a daughter, isn't that right?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I said that, but I don't really remember, to be honest.
You said that?
I did say, I believe he said that. I kind of remember that, but I'm not 100%. I don't remember 100% if he said that or not. Because
Okay.
I also read about it. So I don't know.
Okay, so what you're saying is that you're unsure if what you remember is your own memory or what you read about.
Yes.
Okay. And so some of the things that you previously said about whether or not he told you had a baby, you're saying right now that maybe that's not what you remember, maybe it's something that you read somewhere else, is that right?
Just that part.
Just that part.
Yes.
But everything else you remember clearly, is that right?
Yes.
25 years later.
Yes.
Okay. And so you said that the light-skinned guy looked familiar to you, right? When you identified him 20 years later?
Yes.
Okay. But like you're saying, you have kind of some selective memories, that you remember some things really well, but everything else you're not really sure if it's your memory or if it's what you learned in the media. Is that right?
Yes.
May I have a moment, Judge?
Yes, sir.
No further questions, Judge.
Mr. Lujan?
No regrets.
Do me a favor, ma'am, I need you to leave a number with the DA's office. If you do that, you can leave today.
Yes.
But should you get a call, you would need to be back within 45 minutes of getting that call. Okay? Thank you very much. Take a break. You've agreed to work later, so we're going to take more breaks. We're going to take a break right now. We're doing it under the following instructions. You're not to discuss this case with anyone. You're not to remain within the hearing of anybody discussing this case. You're not to discuss this case among yourselves. I do need you back in your jury room by 3:40, at which time we'll continue with the trial of this case.
All rise.